What's up, guys, and welcome back to episode 41 of Any Heroics, where we're trying to do high energy intros as per the Zoomer generation Golems gamers. Big shout out to those lovely gentlemen. My name is, of course, Stephen Denby, the captain of Any Heroics, the only GBHL team in living memory to have a YouTube channel that's actually of any success. I'm joined tonight by Dave. That's not true. There's plenty of channels out there with lovely people with YouTube channels and
I think
teams.
there might only be one other that's associated with the YouTube channel that you've already alluded to.
Specifically, yeah, I think so.
Well, they hit 1,000 subscribers, so they
They
can't be any
did. We
just right.
also recently hit 2,000 subscribers.
Oh,
So
did we?
big
What did
shout
I
out
promise
to
to do at
us.
2,000 subscribers?
Pardon?
Did I promise to do something at 2,000 subscribers? I
You
can't.
probably did. Remember what it was that Dave offered to do at 2,000
Yeah, that's a
subscribers.
comment there.
Drop a comment down below. Um, we are, of course, here to talk about the events of the previous weekend. Anything hobby related that we feel like to unnecessarily throw shade at all the lovely people in the community, especially people of other nations, and
Oh yeah.
just all in all review lists and give our very biased opinions.
Huge.
However, before we can talk about the events of the weekend, we are, of course, affiliated by the wonderful, the lovely Seventh City Collectibles. Go check them out in the link in the description below. Go there for all your hobbying needs, stock of all your systems, games, card games, terrain, wargaming supplies, lovely food. Yeah, just great shop, great people who run it. But moving on to the first event of this
Nice.
weekend,
Love to
just
see a
gone.
cut of all your 7 City shilling, Denby. I'd be interested to see how repetitive you get, or if it's actually different every time.
I think it's relatively consistent, but not
Yeah,
always
consistent,
exactly the
not
same.
identical. You're not like you're reading from a script, which is interesting. That's why a
Yeah,
supercut could work. Anyway,
yeah,
if anyone can be asked, you could do that for us. I'd
yeah.
watch it. Give you an
I'd
upvote,
watch
a
it.
crisp upvote.
I love the sound of my own voice.
I'd imagine.
After that unexpected pause, which happened for absolutely no reason, let's talk about the
So,
first event of the weekend. It wasn't in the UK, it was in the land of hope and dreams, the real hope and dreams, Canada.
I'm like,
Clash on the Coast 2024 GT. It's a five-game
crap.
tournament with 800 points up in Vancouver. The TO
Max Manley,
was Max
great name.
Manley. You just know he's a lumberjack with an incredible
Yeah,
mustache and an
could
axe.
be. There's
Yeah.
certainly a possibility.
It was
Um,
major minus scoring, plus or minus five was obviously the
okay.
threshold.
So, what's that? Two for a draw, four for a major win, zero for a major loss, one and three
Exactly.
in between. It's pretty tightly packed.
We don't actually have any of the hobbying based awards. However, I can confidently tell you that everybody won most sporting because it's an event in Canada. So they were all very polite and lovely to each other.
Yeah,
And
that
results
very
are
well could be the case.
courtesy of Mr. Richard Lynn. Shout out into the West
Thanks,
podcast.
Richard.
Um, Absolute champion. Um, Third place was Mr. Scott Altman with a unusual looking Isengard list, or at least unusual in UK meta standards. We've got a total of 46 models. We've got it led by Saruman on horse with two Grabane, two Berserkers, five Orcs with shield, four Orcs with spear, and an Orc with spear and banner. And then we've got Vrasku with five Uruks with crossbow, Thryden on horse with a Dunlanding horseman with five Uruk-hai warriors with shield, three Dunlanding Huskarls, two Orc warriors with shield and spear, and then the Wildman Oathmaker with six Wildman of Dunland, four Orc warriors with spear, and two Dunlanding Huskarls. It's a
I mean,
it's a quirky build, isn't it?
it is a quirky build. It's pretty whack to be playing Isengard and still using Dunlanding Huskarls. I mean, it's presumably because they want to. This is themey, right? This is like a. There's a smatter. It's like a Orthanc list, isn't it? Like you've got mainly you've got Saruman, you've got the Oathmaker, you've got Thryden, who's like being a kind of a warlord character. You've got Orcs mainly. He's got the only Urukai he has. He's got two Berserkers, which I mean, theme wise, they're just Berserkers. A few crossbow lads with Vrasku, but yeah, it's like because this obviously, like, if you were making the choice, you've got Urukai Pikemen available for 10 points, and you're opting to take Huskarls for 11. It's just not a sensible choice.
What is the Huskar rule? Is it within 3 when they're supporting
while they're
3 inches
spear
of a hero?
supporting within 3 inches of a Dunlending hero, so Thryden or the One-Man Oathmaker.
Is that one of
But
the most conditional rules in the game? Kind of
yeah,
almost in line with
and
Birders
it only
banner.
gives them fight 4,
Yeah.
which you can already get in the same list for cheaper.
Yes.
And they have
Do
Bodyguard, which is really funny when you consider that they don't get the bonus when they're at the front, even if they are within 3. So it's like cool. So you've got auto passing for charging terror causes. However,
Yeah.
so yeah, not very many crossbows. Like I said, I think this is more of a themey list than a list with serious competition at its core. Because I don't know why you would. Oh, that's right. Hang on, he's got 5 Urukai with shield there as well.
Yeah.
It's not built with competitive edge in mind, I would hope, because this wouldn't make any sense in that case. But I do like the idea, the theme, and I think the Oathmaker is a very evocative model. I like the idea of combining Saruman and the Oathmaker. Another thing is the Oathmaker gives wild men fearless, but also lets them have the Isengard keywords, so they don't have to take break tests. It's a bit like I don't really get the point of that.
Is it fearless while within 6 of him?
Yeah, that's a really good rule, and they're cheap because Wildmen are actually pretty good value anyway. Like they're cheap. They're the same cost as an Orc Warrior with no upgrade, but they get Courage 3 base and axes, and they get Hatred Rohan, which is not worthless. Like there's a fair amount of Rohan about. I don't think this is a very good list. I think it could be optimized a lot, but Saruman can do a lot, and I mean, Thryden being your only strike is crazy. But if your plan is to pin someone with your magic, and then Thryden can do the job once you've done that. I sometimes think that Thryden would have a place in all Isengard lists if he was a hero of valor as like an alternative to something like Lurtz. But
Yeah, you
because
feel like
he's fortitude, because
does,
mounted heroes, there aren't any mounted heroes in the list apart from Saruman and Thryden. So it's like,
and Sharku, come on.
yeah, true. But like fight 5 and strike makes a difference there. Also,
Yeah.
12-inch stand fast.
Yeah.
He's got 2 fate, 2 will. Yeah, I think he's pretty high courage. Like he could do a job. It's just Lurtz sits a better value for similar points, and also Thryden only has 2 wounds, which makes him kind of sad. So, yeah, he should be Valor, I think.
He definitely is he Valor in the Legendary Legion?
He is Valor in the Legion, yeah.
Yeah. Which just makes sense, and that is nice. I think, yeah, like you said,
He's a cool model too. He's like his own thing. Doesn't really match any aesthetic,
yeah.
But yeah, it's
This
cool list.
this list is very yeah, I feel like I've got these cool models that I like. How can I use them?
Yeah, I sometimes see lists like this and think like, wow, that looks cool. Oh, maybe I'll run a list like that, and then I write it, and I'm like, yeah, but I could just
This
see
is
this and this and this, and then after a few tweaks, it looks literally nothing like this anymore.
yeah, you drop
That's what always happens.
you drop the 55 points worth of Dunlanding Huskarls for 5 Uruk Warriors with Pike, and then you go, this is already better. And I've got
Yeah, so
5
much
points
stuff.
extra to spend.
And then you just think like, well, maybe I should just max out my crossbows, and then once you're done doing that, the whole list is just totally different. So
Yeah.
and then you start
Absolutely.
thinking, well, maybe I'll have a ballista and like a bomb. It's like, well, maybe I can't afford Saruman, so I have Lurtz instead, and then it's a different list. Anyway, you clearly done all right with it because you got 3rd place.
Yeah, I think he went 4-1 with it, from looking at the Longshanks, which is, pretty good showing. I think I looked at the list on Longshanks and also what Richard had said to us in the little message report. There was a lot of Battle of Fornost and a lot of Minas Tirith in general. So it was kind of unexpected that.
Well, he's not invested too heavily in shooting, but I'm kind of surprised. I guess 46 is quite a lot of models.
Yeah, 46 models where you've got Saruman to kind of go, you've got big hero, have you?
Kind of most of them are just orcs, which is like,
Yeah. You feel like this list would struggle into a competent Mordor list, which just kind of like walks through it. Dragon Emperor again would just kind of walk through it. Even like a Lothlorien list is just walking through it. because with Lothlorien at this point, you get about 40-ish models. You outshoot it, you outfight it, you wound everything on 5s.
Yeah.
They've got no good targets for Saruman. But yeah, no, it's very cool to see this list do well. And also I really like Oathmaker as well. I think he's cool, and he does what he says on the tin. He makes an oath and he sticks to it. And yeah.
I just think he's neat.
I just think he's neat.
Anyway.
Moving on to a similarly fluffy list, which also involves Rohan. It's a big bowl of soup. We've got a Lothlorien Rohan Fiefdom's Misty Mountains 4-way Yellow Alliance with all of the little extra bits. So, well, I say that actually, that's not quite true. We've got Galadriel. We've got a Galadriel warrior with Banner Shield Spear, 3 Galadriel warriors with shield, 2 Galadriel warriors with spear and elf bow, and 2 with just elf bow, and then 3 gold of the Galadriel court for that lovely 5/6 pike support. We've got Theodred, heir of Rohan, with horse and shield. Gosh, he's so unbelievably cheap, isn't he? 3 warriors of Rohan with throwing spear and shield, 4 warriors of Rohan with shield, 4 outriders, 1 outrider on horse, and a royal guard with throwing spears and horse. And Forlong the Fat on horse, 3 axemen of Lossark, 3 clansmen, 2 men at arms of Dalamoth and 2 clansmen. And then we've got the big flappy boy, everyone's favorite pigeon, Gwaihir.
I don't get this list. Why has he got Forlong?
You could have chosen a cheaper Valor hero from.
I mean, Forlong. He's 5/5.
Is it for the march? Does Theodred have march? His
Forlong
strength.
doesn't have march. There's no march in this. Forlong, I don't like leaving home without march. That much is well known. I think I'd be tempted to run Theoden over Theodred, or Theoden over Forlong, because the Warhorn is all right, but what are you bringing? What are those heroes? You've got 2 clansmen, 3 axemen, and 3 men at arms. It's they're not good troops, really. They're fine. They're
their benefits are received from the heroes and the
I mean those 3 axemen of Lossark will get to essentially faint when within 6 of Forlong, but I don't know. I don't really see the approach. This could be. I think I would max out. I think I'd swap Theodred for Theoden, drop Forlong and his warband, and then max out with Royal Guard and a full Galadriel warband. You still end up with the same sort of numbers, less heroes, but you'd have March, and you've got a really, really solid battle line. I can see why this is okay, because it's basically just solid everywhere, but also it doesn't Gwaihir is still Gwaihir if you don't take Forlong. Courage, extra Warhorn courage doesn't really benefit much here, because if the Warhorn is you got a load of elves. If you run Royal Guard, you don't need it anyway because they're bodyguard. I don't really see what they're going for with this, because you can have 36 models, because it's 2 legend warbands plus Gwaihir is 37 models, so you could easily just drop a guy and keep it at 36. You end up with less might, I guess. And Forlong's okay, he's an all right troop muncher, but that's really all he is. Yeah, I can't say I get this, to be honest.
Richard did also want to note that he was the only player who went undefeated. He won all 5 games, but he didn't max out VPs in, I think, 3 of them.
It must have been
maybe 2 of them.
I suppose actually, because of how close this is, it was 4. So 4 for us. So if you got 4 major wins and a minor loss, you'd end up with more points than someone with 5 minor wins.
Yeah,
because that's 15, whereas 4 major wins is 16. So
yeah.
I
agree similarly.
Which is why, by the way, you should spread out your things slightly. So have a buffer between draw. So make the draw be 3 rather than 2, and then make a minor win be 5, and then a major win be 6. So you got 6, 5, 3, 1, 0. So it's a little bit less punishing for people who win but don't max out their don't always get their VPs.
Yeah, because as we previously discussed, a win,
Yeah,
a 12-0 doesn't necessarily mean that you absolutely punked your opponent and you just completely outplayed them. It could have been matchup, it could have been scenario.
I think winning should always be the most important thing overall,
Yeah.
because
It,
ultimately, like, matchup and scenario are so dependent on how big of win you can get, and I think that is something that you shouldn't punish people for. But that's my take. Galadriel's great. She's good value. I think maxing out her warband makes her even better value. And so I sort of don't really. I like Theodred as well. Like, I understand the desire to use Theodred because he's very killy, but this, I don't know. I like March too much to run a list like this, but you know,
you are a filthy March enjoyer.
yeah, I really am.
If you could think of a really simple way to get March into the list, what do you reckon you'd do?
Swap Forlong for Theoden on foot, even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Swap Forlong for Theoden and then change all those fiefdom troops to Rohan troops for similar costs. Easily
Yeah,
done. You can get more
that's
Royal
fair.
Guard in. It's literally like, you lose the horn, you gain March. You can even have a cheapo Theoden on horse. You'd have to not give him like all of his armor and stuff. But if he's not your leader, and if you're using Galadriel, he'd probably make her your leader. Or Guahir. He's like, well, why not? You could just have a naked Theoden on a horse as a
So
sort
you
of
aren't feeling like
tertiary striker.
you're not feeling like you could add an additional striker and marcher in by swapping it for Boromir instead.
Also a much better choice.
First place was Andrew Palmieri, who won 4 major wins and got a minor loss. So he was on exactly the same TPs as Richard, but he just had a much greater VP diff. With a very similar list, although as we've alluded to, Lothlorien, Rohan, Misty Mountains, and Fellowship. So different series dropped a couple of models and added Boromir of Gondor on horse with shield, which shield is a controversial option.
I would personally, I don't bother, but I mean, if you don't have anything else to spend 5 points on, what I would say is you've got 4 Galadhrim Warriors with shield. You can easily give them spears as well.
Yeah, potentially.
That war Galadhrim Warrior with a banner and nothing else should have a spear and shield as well, or at least a spear.
How do you feel about the Theodred shield? Is it not a similar kind
It's
of
also worthless, yeah.
yeah? Because they're
Like,
very
it doesn't
hand
add
grenadey
anything.
heroes.
The thing with Theodred is he does die like a chump when he doesn't have a shield, but also like that's not your problem. That's not the problem that he has. Like if he's getting pinned and ganked, it's like he could just die. And the difference between D6 and D7, sometimes you just take 2 wounds to a guy you charged and his spear. They just double six to wound you, and he'll die sometimes. That's how it is. If you're playing Theodred's Guard when he's your leader, yeah, always take the shield because that gives you more protection against Morannons and stuff. But like in a list like this, it's far from necessary. In his case, he doesn't have the might that Boromir does, and he has some fate and stuff. So it's like I see. If I was giving either one of them a shield, I'd give it to Theodred over Boromir personally.
Yeah, yeah.
But if I was making this list, I probably wouldn't have either. I wonder if these guys were inspired by the Polish meta list that this is similar to, which I was alluding to with the Theoden and things, because that was a popular list in Poland last year.
I did see
the Nations Cup.
a comment on the North American strategy battle group where these results were posted, which I did have a look at this evening.
Yeah,
and it was someone saying, "What about the top lists that weren't from a Filthy Soup or Legendary Legion player?" And I thought, oh, it's super big deal over in Canada, which I guess.
Well, I mean, do you not remember how people were freaking out about Lake Town Super Friends when that was popular?
Yeah, no, I do
People
remember
really
that.
don't like good soups for some reason. I don't know. It's like enjoy them while you can, guys. These things are going bye bye. You know, if anything, this is the kind of list I'd quite like to play before it gets thrown in the trash. Like maybe I'll consider it for Sterling or something if I can find the models.
Do you think that this list is just improved somewhat by swapping the Rohan / Fellowship / fiefdoms contingent for like a dwarven core of some form.
I mean, that's okay. This is also good in its own way. Like this is more hero focused than troop
Mm,
focused. Like the version of this list that I've always thought of was, I mean, Dwarf Kings are excellent value in this kind of list, and then you have a nice Iron Guard line and whatnot, which is a list that I was considering. You know, I mean, this is honestly pretty good, but I actually I hate the fact that it's just Warriors of Rohan. Like that is going to fall apart extremely quickly to a halfway decent battle line.
yeah, it feels like a waste of some potential. I don't know what that
Yeah, I mean,
potential
this is
is.
I'd tinker with something like this because, like, if you throw away the shields, you can get a bunch. You can upgrade a bunch of those guys to Royal Guard.
Mm,
Also, like, I don't know why there are Galathrums with shields and stuff. It's like let's just simplify. You know,
yeah,
frontline, frontline Rohan, backline Galathrim. Let's not pretend that we're trying to play every warband is its own army. This is clearly a soup, and there's a front line and there's a back line, and that's how it should be. That's the natural order
yeah,
for these things. Yeah, I might write over my own version of a list like this later. See if I like it.
yeah. I
No
mean, it's
sense
got
either, which is a bit of a miss, but I understand why it doesn't have one because it's extremely tight. Like this corset is buttoned up tight.
yeah. Elizabeth's
It's
one's
already only
fainting
got 30
straight off
models.
those battlements and into the water.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly.
Wow, well
Um,
done, Andrew, though. Good job.
yeah, well done.
If you
We've
do see this, let me know if this was nicked from the Poland list because that is my suspicion. But it also may have been independently reached because a lot of people have been enjoying Theodred for a long time. So
yeah, Theodred is a very, very
he's a
cool
handsome
hero.
guy, except for his model.
Yeah, his very generic could easily just be a warrior of Rohan with heavy armor.
uh, well, no, he's got a fancy royal armor. He's clearly from the royal house. He just also looks
Mm,
like a potato head.
he does look like Potato Head.
But he's not the only guy. I mean, doing here is an absolute crime, as is Farmer
Yeah,
Maggot.
yeah,
So, anyway, let's move on before we
yeah.
see
Moving on
models.
to an event we actually went to, the
Oh my
battle,
god, I haven't been to any events since Sunday.
the battle of Unnumbered Tears, or if you're a top
Numbered
legend, Unnumbered
Beers.
Beers. Whoa,
That's next year if they run
yeah.
it again. Fingers
If
crossed.
well, we know they're not running it again, don't we?
Well, Owen isn't running it again.
Ooh.
Ed may come back.
Um,
I hope.
Tournament
Like,
organisers were Mr. Edward Ball and Mr. Owen Wright for the last time. So thank you, Owen, for your many, 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 many years of hosting SBG Nerds in Sanctuary Games. It was
yeah,
held at Sanctuary Gaming Centre, Sutton in Ashfield, which is actually a really nice venue.
yeah, it's solid.
It was I would say it was
Space
slightly
between tables.
cramped. Yeah,
Space
space
between
between tables.
tables. It
There
wasn't as
was
bad as G Boot, but it wasn't as good as many.
yeah. In some Southwest events where we are absolutely blessed with space, like Contest of Champions last year, for example, or a lot of Dewey's events. Um, Dave and I found ourselves in an unfortunate situation where there were four tables of which three sets of players were playing around the same side. So we had
Yeah,
seven people in a very, very tight grouping,
yeah.
to the point where I actually went and got changed out of my jeans into my shorts at the gaming table, slightly underneath it. Don't worry, I didn't flash everyone, but report on that, Bugle. Come at me. Um, yeah,
We
lovely
talked about
venue.
this before, didn't we? This event with the 1,000 points, no legendary. Sorry, no nothing. You're only allowed legendary legions or single factions. But if you took a single
Yes,
faction, you got a bonus two pieces of war gear from a big long list, including the One Ring and Narsil and the Crown and Vogel and all that good
Stars of
stuff.
Power, yada yada yada. The
I
Stone
did. That
Flail.
is we have exactly. We did basically just that. That was just a quick run through of all the good ones. Like in terms of order of things that were actually game changing, it was like One Ring, Narsil, Narsil, because free hero combats is actually good. Crown of Morgul is amazing on loads of casters that don't normally get access to it, obviously, because attacks and rerolls are fantastic on profiles like Other Ring Wraiths and Galadriel. And Staves of Power can be really game breaking on profiles that are never supposed to get them. For example, Brogir, because of how his rule is worded, even if you roll a 6 on your Staff of Power dice, you just get will back. So you can literally never stop him. Um, fun stuff like the Stone Flail setting your fight value to 6 being, pretty fun with profiles that don't already have fight 6. Like, for example, Nori or Goroth can do that as well, or the Golden King can go up to fight 6, which is good fun. All sorts of mischief can be got up to, but sorry, I've got sidetracked there. Who was the best painted, Stephen? Was it someone we know?
Well, I was going to say before we get to the hobby awards, I would say shout out to Elliot Clode, who is doing or has done a video on his performance at Unnumbered Tiers, and also his list which he took. So hopefully that'll be up soon, and I can remember to link it in the
Are you
description.
telling me his list isn't going to be in this top 3?
It's not really in the top 3, but it was better than my list. He did actually come higher than me in the rankings.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Which was really upsetting.
Oh.
There was also, it's important to note, there was a specified scenario list that were not going to be taken.
Yeah,
So it was random from 12, no contest, no seize the prize, no divide and not divide and conquer, sorry, no
on the battlefield.
command the battlefield. A lot of the
no recon
ones,
as well. It removed quite a lot of
the polarizing ones, where
well, yeah, and then also capture control and clash by moonlight, which is an interesting choice. But
it was one removed from each pool basically, and it's
yeah, and it was random from 12, so you could play. I mean, we did play both to the death and Lords of Battle, for example.
Yeah. Best painted was Mr. John Partridge.
Who the hell is that?
He sometimes appears on this podcast. Like, apparently he's working right now. Like,
some doctor or something.
get a daytime job, idiot. You know. And most sporting was Teddy Ivel, who is always very, very, very nice to see at an event because he just chats. He just keeps talking. He's very positive. Goes around, says hi to everyone.
From the can as well.
He does eat pudding from the can, whatever that means.
Have you not seen him do it?
No.
Oh, at the Worcester event, he was eating. I think it was like rice pudding directly from the can.
Was it like the ambrosia rice pudding cans?
It might have been.
Yeah.
It was pretty. I thought for a second he was eating he was just like raw dogging like butter beans out of the can, and I was like, But then I saw it was actually pudding. I was like, thank fuck for that, because like that would have been the most. I mean, it would have been even more iconic, but also extremely scary to see someone just eating raw beans out of a tin with a fork.
Oh, I meant to say, I did have a chat to the Sanctuary Gaming Centre staff. They are lovely people. It's all well priced. They've got really good coffee. Everything's locally sourced. They're really friendly. It's a really good shop. So if you are ever in the Sutton Ashfield area, go check them out. They're wonderful
KFC
people.
next door as well.
There's a KFC next door. There's an Asda.
Was it a better coffee than the one you had at the random Airbnb we stayed at in Ripon?
No, I
didn't think it would be.
Now that man specifically ordered his coffee beans from like a specialist coffee supplier for his own.
I didn't think it would have been. I just wanted to mention that you had
but it was
nice
damn good coffee
in the morning that time.
Yeah. Well,
anyway,
that coffee inspired me to a podium, so we'll take it.
Well, yeah. Clearly, this coffee wasn't as inspiring.
Oh, it was still very good. On to John Partridge's Best Painted, which somehow we haven't managed to get photos of recently. However, we can make do because we've got photos from his Nations Cup list, which is kind of similar.
It's Angmar. So Johnny is a massive Gulliver enjoyer.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to give Gulliver anti-shooting and also a magic sword that makes him go vroom vroom was extremely appealing.
It was too delectable for him to say no. In fact, you can see in this picture here, you can see Gulliver wearing the ring on the right-hand side.
Yeah, that's good actually. I wonder if you put that.
One really cool thing about John's list here is he's actually spent a lot of time converting his captains on Warg. So one of them is a Razgoosh conversion, which has been combined with a Gothmog on Warg, with a head swap for the Warg as well, which is just like
both of his captains come from that same Gothmog actually.
Yeah, they're very cool sculpts, and he's put a lot of love into this army.
Yeah, it's cool.
I've got 2 armies that he's painted downstairs. One which I'm borrowing and one which is mine. It's always nice seeing John's work.
Well, that's nothing. I've got an army that I'm not supposed to. I forgot to bring it to me to Unnumbered Tiers, but I give it back to my stuff. I've got Sam Gran's sexily painted Bjornings. This is a joke, by the way,
Ooh.
because if you've seen his Bjornings, you know what they're painted like.
Oh, they painted it to the minimum
Not
standard
quite as good
required.
as Sean. I don't think they're very likely to win any best painted.
Shout
It's
out
very
to
sad.
Sam Grattan for his lemon painted bay awnings. Those
They do look like they were painted by a lemon, yes.
fair enough.
Shall we move on?
Yeah, moving on to the third place list, and then we've seen
Who
quite a
the hell
lot
is that?
with a very low pixelated Galadriel. It's Mr. Jackie Rawson with a
Jackie Rawson.
Lothlorien list. He's
Yeah,
got Galadriel, 5 Galathan warriors with shield, Wood Elf Sentinel, 2 Wood Elf warriors with
that's
elf
a
bow.
shit ton of Galatharum.
He's basically it's 52 models. I'll summarize it. He's got 1 Sentinel, he's got a
Yeah,
couple of knights, he's got Galadriel, Haldir with elf bow and armor, Orofin, and Rumil. His war gear choices were Crown of Morgul for
yeah.
Galadriel and Orofin with Narsil, the lightsaber of doom.
I meaning
Um,
to. I meant to ask it, but I didn't get around to actually doing it. Wonder if the obviously the rerolls are great for Galadriel, but I wondered if the 3 attacks, even because she's still unarmed strength 3, I wondered if the 3 attacks ever came in useful
I
because I see that.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah,
interesting
I'd almost
one.
be tempted to give her Narsil because it's like then you get another combat hero. The problem then is obviously she's going to get tagged and won't always be able
Yeah,
to cast, and I see why. So he put Narsil on Orphan, and I think that's just because he's got 3 attacks. And this
yeah, it's a
list is
troop
severely
blender.
lacking in the strength 4. Like it's got none at all apart from the 3 brothers. Haldir is so mid that he's almost not even there. Rumil's going to be dedicated to holding up shit like Gulliver's most of the time, probably. So Orphan makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
With his double strikes thing, he just blends.
yeah. It's a lot of elves. Unsurprisingly,
Yeah,
elves at high
yeah,
points with a more reliable Galadriel it's really good. Um,
yeah. I don't think there was. This wasn't as popular as I thought it might have been. I anticipated seeing. He's got 2 banners in this, I think, as well. I
yes,
anticipated seeing a good amount of the elf lists. I think Rivendell was a little more popular. I think maybe people just were like, "Hey, I can actually have Gil-galad and Elrondor and Glorfindel
yeah.
and a halfway decent number of troops."
I can
Uh,
make Glorfindel usable again.
yeah, I mean,
He's always been
Glorfindel,
usable, but yeah,
Glorfindel's the most usable of the lot. But yeah, fight 6 elves, and also elves just do well in a pure list. He's done his thing of not taking March, but without recon on the table, and
yeah.
without
No
citizen
recon,
rights.
no C's.
Like
Yeah,
the only scenario where March is like a must want, like you want it is
Divide.
Divine and Conquer
Yeah,
because you have to deploy sort of awkwardly, but like that didn't come up, so he wasn't in a position. And even then, like he's pretty good at positioning his army correctly. I've noticed. He only has 8 guys at the Gleatham Court. I feel like I'd want more than that,
yeah. What a
personally.
punt! I've got
How many
16.
Sentinels does he have? Is it just 2?
Just the 1 Sentinel
Just
actually.
1? Oh, I definitely want 2 at least, but it might have been a model limitation. Either way, yeah, this is a pretty good list. And I mean, To the Death and Lords of Battle are both great when you want to sit back and shoot. This is great
Yeah,
at like grinding out wins and on grindy scenarios like domination. So I'm not surprised he did well.
which he actually
Also, he's
drowned me out in domination. So funny you
did
should
he?
say that. Yeah,
Embarrassing.
yeah.
All right, what's next? Someone I know,
Next,
perhaps? Another
uh,
contender for the title? Oh my god.
it's another name beginning with J. It's Mr. Jacob Krochmal. Sorry, Jacob. That's not how you pronounce your name.
He won't be
I'm
happy
a
with
mean
you.
person.
All right,
Um,
so he's got 42 model Minas Tirith list. He's got his leader is Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, on horse with a shield, the banner of Minas Tirith, the One Ring, and Narsil. Bloody hell, he brought it all with him today.
and
He's
he's
got
got his sword as
court,
well, and he's got the horn of
Sword
Gondor.
of Gondor, yeah. So
Yeah,
he's got maxed out. He's got 12 Fountain Court total. 2 Knights in Minas Tirith, maxed out Rangers, and then the rest of it is his warriors. 42 models with Madril, Aenir, which so slightly confusingly, Aenir is takeable in a pure list. While Elisar, Boromir aren't takeable, Aenir and Boromir are. I think that makes sense. I don't know why that is. I assume because they forgot that they made that impossible. But yeah, you lose your army bonus, but when your front rank is Fountain Court Guard, it doesn't matter so much the courage.
Aenor's
And
also quite
Aenir,
cheap for what he
he's
does.
relatively cheap, and he's a fight 6, 3 attack, 3 wound. D7 lance
Mm.
wielding hero with 3 might with strike. He's just his downsides are not so great that you could justify taking. I mean, Faramir is the same cost almost.
Yeah.
He's 30 points more than Hurin. He gets honestly for me, it's the extra fight 6 because Gandalf isn't fight 6. So this is similar to the list that I consider taking with the Gandalf with the crown, but he's opted for the 1 ring on Boromir instead. And actually, having played against this, he actually beat me at the tournament. A really smart choice, really really smart choice, especially as he's the leader because you really don't need to spend much might with Boromir. Because fun fact, by the way, so banners, because the One Ring was only ever written to go on certain models, there's nothing stopping One Ring and banners interacting. So Invisible Boromir still has a banner, still gives the fight value bonus, which you could argue maybe he shouldn't. But I'm sure if that was how it was ruled, then Yaka wouldn't have taken it this way because obviously, he's as the leader as well. Like I found it really difficult to do anything to him because he's going to be fortified thanks to Gandalf, so you can't just ring wraith him to death. He's got Narsil, so he's always getting value and doing it. He's +1 to wound, and he's moving around with 3 heroic combats. You can't stop him from going places because he's invisible. So if he gets in a bad spot, you're just like, all right, I'll just wander back through my own lines and reposition. Or
He's got
is threatening, jumping around behind your guys and pinning and this has got enough might that you never like hurting. Boromir's might is never needed for heroics, and it's not like he's going
exactly,
to fail to
yeah.
take the ring off when he has to try anyway because he's courage 6,
Yeah.
and he's got 6 might. So when you do flub, I mean, Yaka rolled a 1 twice on his ring test in our game, and he didn't even run out of might. That's how
Yeah.
comfortable he was. It's like, yeah, Yaka played him really well, but also he was able to be so so aggressive with him. There would probably have been a different story against double wraith lists. In fact, I know Jakob lost to an Angmar list with 2 wraiths, and a shade and Gulliver, but that was his loss. But honestly, I was really impressed with how it worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Jakob's also obviously a really good player, so I hope,
yeah, he's all right.
you know, I
I'll give him
to
at
be honest,
least.
I'd be looking to poach him for the team next year if I can.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
He'd never join this team.
Any heroics
This proper
Jakob?
fun team.
Yeah.
Insane.
You heard it here first, guys. Any heroics Jakob Prockmal. I think, like you said, the fact that he's got, because there was another version of this list floating around which had no Madril, and then had the crown
Yeah.
on Gandalf the
Well,
White.
most versions of this list I saw had the crown on Gandalf.
Yeah,
Jasmine played the same list, but instead of she had Narsil on Aenir
yeah,
and the crown on Gandalf. And actually, I also quite liked that list. The problem, obviously, being Aenir is forced to charge heroes if you can, but
yeah.
that
You
isn't
can,
too hard to mitigate it.
yeah. The always must charge X rule. If there's
They're
no
not as
hero in
hard to mitigate
range,
as it seems. The only thing
yeah,
is because heroes is specific. Like must charge is something is easy enough to mitigate because you can usually block them in, or you can charge something on the flank. But like must charge a hero, it's like Sauron is available. You're like
sexy Sauron's in your area,
yeah.
3 miles.
It's like give it him. Ooh. Yeah, no,
Go up to
that is
fight
actually
9.
like more of a downside. But yeah,
Yeah.
he doesn't even do that because Sauron's a
Oh,
monster.
Sauron's a monster. He's not
Otherwise, that
even.
would actually be really good. But
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't work against monsters.
But
Yeah, I like this list. I was impressed by it.
the 9 additional might on the non-Boromir heroes for calling heroic moves, because normally Boromir's a pseudo might carry. You do literally whatever the fuck you want
Yeah,
with him.
he's a
You
water.
He just does everything.
Yeah, and with Narsil, Boromir dismounting voluntarily was really not a problem either. Like
Yeah.
Narsil meant that he was able to actually carry a heavy load.
Share the
I was playing a
load, Mr.
48.
Frodo.
Yeah, I was playing a 48 model Easterling list with Kamal and on the Felbeast, and uh Boromir did so much work. It was crazy.
Yeah. Boromir's charging
Really,
in,
really good.
killing what,
And normally
four
you'd be like, oh,
Easterlings
he
a
loses his
turn?
horse, he loses all of his power, but because of Narsil, he was just walking around, taking
Yeah.
away my pikes while invisible, and I was very limited in my ability to deal with him because
He had channel fortify on him or standard fortify.
well, no, he had fortify on him, but also Kamal isn't that
Is
good of a caster, and once he'd lost his Felbeast, it's like cool. So I can't outstrike this guy. I literally need him to fail. And like I
yeah.
said, even he rolled a 1 on his ring test twice, but he just didn't roll badly in combat enough. Is
Yeah.
what it is. I think I beat him in combat once.
Just get good, brother. Just get good.
Yeah, I know. Shit, embarrassing.
Speaking of
The problem
people,
with that game was Rutavi. She fucking betrayed me because
speaking
she's
of
the
people
actual model.
who have got good, it's Mr. Jamjar Wigmans,
Oh my
another
god.
J name, a
What's
61
this? Oh my
model
god.
order, which is insane.
Only 5 trackers as well.
There's only
That's
5
Morgan Knight.
trackers.
Black Numenorian banner. Oh my goodness.
I know, there's some wild stuff going on here. So, firstly, he's got the Witch King of Angmar, which is his leader, with 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate, horse, crown of Morgul, and Morgul Blade, just in case, which I think at this points level, you can afford to drop the
Yeah,
points
I
on that.
agree. I agree. Especially
Um,
with actually Gullivar's running wild. That Morgan
yeah,
Blade is value.
yeah. 8 Black Numenorians, oh, and the Saurons that are running around as well,
Yeah.
if you really
Yeah.
have to. 8 Black
Yeah, it's true.
Numenorians, 8 Morana with Spear Shield, a Morgul Knight, Giga Chad move, and a Black Numenorian with Banner, who is kind of just there for the VPs. You'll see why in literally a second. He's got the Dark Marshal on horse with 3 trackers, 10 Morana with Shield, and 2 Morgul Knights. And he's got Shagrat with heavy armor, sorry, the heavy armor and the shield of Kirith Ungol, 6 Marine Orcs with Spear and Shield, and 6 Black Numenorians. Got Guritz with 5 Black Numenorians, 5 Marine Orcs with Spear, Shield, and 2 Orc Trackers. Now, his warrior choices were double Staff of Power, because it turns out
Yeah.
when you've got good casters and you give them free will points every turn, they become even better.
Yeah, I
Additionally,
think
if you're not aware of what the Dark Marshal does, firstly, he's fight 6, which is pretty cool. He also becomes a banner to Mordor warriors within 6 inches if you spend a will point,
yeah.
which is pretty cheeky. Starts with 14 will as well, which I think is one of the kind of like mid to high levels for the race.
Well, he's like a normal wraith spellcasting, with the exception that he has Instill Fear on a 4+,
But
which
he
is
does
interesting
rule
because
by fear.
he's a vaguely combat-ish hero in the sense that he's got the fight 6, and he sort of looks like he's a combat hero, but he has the like casting values. It's a bit weird, but
Yeah,
I know Jamie is a Dark Marshal enjoyer. He's always talking about him. I think this is pretty cool. I like the Morgul Knights. I really think what this actually represents is an excellent meta read,
yeah,
because I think double staff ring wraiths is an extremely good counter to almost everything that people are excited to bring to this tournament, and that's
yeah,
like shit like Sauron's with Narsil, or like Gullivar with Narsil, especially even with the ring, because it's like, okay, so that Narsil is invisible, but I have 2. There's no way anything with 3 will, even with resistant to magic, is ever going to resist that kind of barrage of magic. The only thing that is missing is a second crown for the Dark Marshal, which I mean, like,
yeah,
whatever, right? But like, that is actually really, because you've got Shagrat. Shagrat's there; he can do the business. Shagrat's the guy who you're like, right, I've got them sorted out, I've got them pinned. Shagrat's going to finish him off. And he's also got Blood and Glory. He's not like bumped up his numbers with trackers either. This is a hard battle line. That is a massive front line. I think it's nearly 20 Black Numenorians. I mean, like, that's excessive, especially when you think about the only one banner. But then the Dark Marshal can make up for that. He's got a fat stack of Moran and Orcs that don't even have spears that he can, I guess, fill in the gaps with as well, like flanking or outnumbering. And actually, the Black Numenorian Renan line is one of the most efficient battle lines in the whole game. Like, fight 4,
yeah,
terror, cheap. It's 9 points. It's a good meta read. Strength 4. I think this is very astute, actually.
yeah,
And 61 models is a lot. And when you consider that all of them, like, he's got 5 trackers. Other than that, this is hard all the way down. Like, it's tough. There is no weak point. It's not like he's got 10, 15 trackers bumping his numbers up that could die. It's everything is a fighting model apart from those 5 trackers, and that most armies were in the high 40s or low 50s. I saw maybe even low 40s for a lot of them. So
yeah,
this goes hard, because like, yeah, it's going to outfought by most elf lists, but every time you win, you have a significantly higher chance. Like for example, Jake was played him in the final game, and you think like, all the elf line very tough, but remember that elf line is all strength 3, and this is all strength. Like, this has strength 4 everywhere. You know, It just makes a big difference. You lose more fights, but you actually have this big. Whereas the elf list only has the 3 heroes that can kill this on anything other than 6s, and I think that is the difference making.
Yeah, and you've got Shagrat is a very he's a very, very, very good battle line grinder. He'll
Yeah, he's good.
you can have him charge into 2 fight 5 somethings every turn, strike up if you want to. You will reliably kill those if you win the fight, which with a banner and a spear support, you're more than likely going to. He can go hero hunting with double
Yeah, I mean,
caster
if you've got 2
support.
wraiths to do the
Yeah.
business for you, he's absolutely great for going in, striking, finishing the job, and getting his mind point back.
Even Guritz, we've alluded to it before. He won't win you the fight, but he can sure as hell kill the model if it's trapped.
Yeah,
Piercing up to strength 6 with the 2-handed.
Gurus is the garnish that works. If you're like, right, I've got Witch King, Dark Marshal both for staff on horse, Shagrat for killing. What do you add? It's obviously Gurus. It was always
Yeah.
going to be Gurus or Tesco Wraith, and I think Gurus is a smart choice here.
Yeah, the knowing that Maelstrom it doesn't screw you, but you don't have a bucket of
Gurus
might that you want to be
Gurus
spending.
means that you never have to spend more than once he's on the board. You never have to spend more than 3 might to bring all your army on together, and that's if every single one
Yeah.
rolls a 2. Like you've always, if you want to bring it on, you can always do it. Or like so you can always choose to either have it off the board or spend a maximum of 1 might to come on wherever you want, essentially.
Yeah.
Because it's like, say your Gurus comes on a 5 or something, you bring it on the side, you're like, all right. If you're coming on the east-west side, you only ever are going to have to spend 1. If you're coming on the north-south side, you can force them to not come on or spend a might point to guarantee they're all together, and that's really value. It's the same with Madril. It's why they're such good might caddies. They're the most popular might caddies in the game for a reason. And
It also gives you
some of the
March.
best. Yeah,
Same
well,
as
exactly.
Madril. Yeah.
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 All right.
Moving on.
Well done, Jamie.
From Jamie's first ever GBH 100
first
win.
GBHL win. Congratulations to Jamie.
Little round of applause for you.
Mr. Cash Guy, they call
Well
him.
done. Mr. Cash Guy, Mr. Comfy Car. Let's move on to everyone's favorite section of the podcast, or at least mine.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Here's the comments.
Oh my god.
Master Ball UK 6780 says, traveled over from Spotify to comment. I'm glad to see you back and feeling better. Thanks for the shout out. Was lost last week without your podcast. P.S. First baby due November 13th. Tis the season, apparently.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, it's the new meta. It's have a baby. So you're on for doing well at events or doing well for hosting events, apparently. You should start hosting something. Mr. Dom Lord says, watching the video to see my name caught me very off guard. Well, carry on being a lovely gentleman, and I'm sure you'll see it more frequently. I believe Dom won most sporting last week. Hopefully I'm correct, otherwise I look very unsporting. Was a great tournament, and as someone who'd never been to an event before, I would say if you're considering going but unsure, just go for it. I went on my own and made friends with the people around me. Great community. That's I mean, that's exactly the sentiment.
I feel a bit daunting. I've been there. And once you make friends with the degenerates that go to every tournament, it becomes a lot easier because then you always have someone that you can chit chat to. But most everybody is really friendly. If you can get the opportunity to introduce yourself and just do it, you'll get a nice conversation out of it and a friend for the next time.
If you go to an event which has 6 games, you've got 6 potential new friends that are forced to share a social situation with you for like an hour and a half each. That's how I made my friends. Is people who are forced to play me.
To be honest, I think we became friends after we stopped having to play each other so much.
Yeah, we did. And then the one time we commented on it, we immediately traveled up and played each other the game 1.
Yeah, that's true. That was ripping, man.
It was ripping, yeah.
Oh no.
We don't mention ripping. Chris Murphy 5442 says, great show.
Could this be?
Gutted I got farmed in Banger, but too close and fun games.
Yeah, it was good stuff.
The fact that Chris Murphy listens to the podcast. If you don't know who Chris Murphy is, you're probably not from Scotland. He's one of the most legendary figures of the GBHL. Regular winner of most sporting votes.
Scotland, to be fair.
Yeah. yeah, if you ever get the chance to chat to him, meet him, or go to one of his events, go. It's the short answer.
Yeah.
Four Farthings Gaming says, I'm bum and didn't put all the information in my list review request. I forgot to mention that Dio had set the supplement deadline date for a week before Angmar came out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I did
Yeah.
wonder about that.
So any new Legendary Legion or model was not legal. Also, I converted my two-handed orc to have maces for bash. Thanks for the criticism
Yeah,
and tip.
technically, when you take a two-handed weapon, it doesn't actually specify what kind of two-handed weapon it is, so you can literally put whatever you want. Like the orcs, some of them do, but some of them don't. Like some profiles say two-handed mace, for example, of the Mordor Urukai is like you can only have a two-handed mace. But in the orc warrior, it's like two-handed weapon. It's like okay, I'll just give him a two-handed flail because apparently that's a thing you can do. I don't know.
Yeah, why
No
not?
reason why you can't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the stone flail.
Yeah.
Whirling. Yeah, so that makes sense. I can't remember what we said about it, I'm afraid.
We said that we'd be better off being the
Much of the advice was probably still going to be valid, like the captain over second barrow, for example. But
yeah.
I can't remember exactly what we said, unfortunately.
Endmoot videos with a bumper big comment. Mr. Harry Parkhill, Hobby Legend, says, Hey fellas, haven't listened to all of this yet, but want to say big thanks for your kind words about the format of Lord of the Imps. Really proud of it and appreciate your kind words. Well, you deserve those kind words. So Dave in particular had some criticism of the points level, and it certainly divided folks this year. The reason for the big points drop was threefold. One, as you've accurately assessed, we've had a mix of points levels in the last in the six Lords of the Imps we've had, but never a low one. I wanted to see what people would do with the format and force Contest of Champions with much fewer points. Would people still go for big heroes? Focus on armies which did well on the other six. Secondly, I was bored of seeing Gulliver and the Witch King doing well. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Also, I didn't want any more Smaug appearances. You and me both, brother. You and me both.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Third, as you point out, timing-wise, I'm sat between two other large point events valued GBHL 100s. I thought having some variety may help stoke the fires of inspiration. Perhaps I was wrong, but I know we had a real mix of feedback on this one, so we'll think carefully for next year. I mean,
yeah,
ultimately, if you're hosting Lord of the Imps, people are going to have a good time. The points will maybe attract different people, but you're still going to max out the room.
I think the rules pack is it's really earned its place as a sort of a staple of the GBHL. Like, it was annoying to have to miss it. But I wanted to support Battles on the Coast, and also, as I alluded to before, I like large points more. So I want to also. Well, yeah, I mean, I won, so I can't complain. I enjoyed that tournament very much, but I would definitely have done it if it hadn't been the same weekend, for sure. It's yeah, I don't like 550 personally. I think bigger is better, but also I understand what you're saying. It makes it easier to run and get an extra game in. I think 600 would be an interesting one. 600 is right about where you start being able to do something more. But I think 550 is a fine choice. I mean, I was probably being a bit flippant when I was being critical of it. It's not my favorite personally.
It did give lots of very creative list choices.
Well, ish.
There was a lot of Guahir into X.
Oh yeah, I mean Guahir is handy in the sense that he can ally with almost everything in good and is a pretty nice profile. And he will always be your leader when he's in there, or always can be your leader.
Yeah.
Also,
he's very good at the third scenario, which is the run away from the middle one. Or fourth
and
scenario.
also sees the prize as well, sees the imp.
Yeah.
He's great at that as well, because he can always have a go at picking up turn one.
I'm just quite chuffed that we've got Harry Parkhill listening to
the Parkhill,
at least some parts of the podcast. So big shout out.
He's doing like me, just fast forward to the bit where
to the bit where we talk about his stuff.
Mentioned. Fast forward to that moment.
Listen, read the transcript, Harry. Read the transcript. Fat Hobbit Gaming 5292, another hobby legend, Mr. Liam Smith, says, I feel like I should call myself out by going to a GVHL 80 with an Isengard army. List at 600 points with a bomb and a ballista, after what Matt said. Yay, scumbag. Posting this before the event, shout out to Rob Lynchbury for Great Deeds of War. So I have no idea if this will be good or not. Now I need to see if that event has actually happened. I didn't have the foresight.
600 points. 600 points of bomb and ballista doesn't necessarily have to be mean, but it certainly could be.
Yeah, it's a very Rawson-esque list, isn't it?
Well, I mean,
That's what he won imps with. Hang on, let's see. Great
yeah,
Deeds of
true, yeah.
War is this weekend coming, so that's where we'll find out. It's a central event in Birmingham. I don't know if tickets are still available. If you're in Birmingham and listening, go to that event. It's on Saturday the 26th,
You
unless it's already
better.
sold out, in which case,
Well,
ignore me. Uh, big up Solihull, am I right?
yeah.
David,
Sorry, I was reading the next comment aimlessly. I was jumping ahead mentally. Yeah, big up Solihull.
big up Solihull. David Melton 9839 says, great episode, gents. My takeaway from the episode is that having a baby is the new meta for the new edition. So my wife and I have
Oh yeah,
started trying for one. That is dedicated hobbyist.
yeah. Don't
Favorite,
tell John about that meta, or he'll be
yeah.
trying to
Oh,
talk Emily into
he'll have
having a
12
baby.
kids by the time the new edition's out. They won't be his,
Simply a
but
hobbyist.
favorite tournament memory from this year so
Good
far?
question. It's probably Nations Cup. That was super fun. I think big team events with in another country is just so special. Especially with a lot of people there who hadn't been before, and it was a new format. Obviously, like on the pitch, as it were, we could have done a little better. But just those kind of bonding experiences are super special. Team events are always goated as well. To be fair,
Yeah,
they're always great, and
I mean,
going abroad is like a little mini holiday, and traveling to said tournament and getting in all sorts of hijinks with the Belgian police. All the
yeah,
standard stuff, really.
yeah. Gosh, when they
It's fun
pinned
in
you up
memory.
against the wall and were patting you down, that was quite an intense little
That never happened, but we did get in trouble with the Belgian police
we did, yeah.
briefly,
Um, it
and
would be
a
difficult.
Belgian moving company.
It would be difficult for me to not stroke my ego and the fact that I've only ever won one, but my first ever GBH 100 win is
Hey, that's
probably
a special, mate.
my favorite tournament memory. I think
Never said yes, it's mine.
every tournament is has been good so far this year. Um, it's difficult to pick anyone out that's specifically been brilliant. I'd say the GP and Nations Cup. That's the Seven City GP. Just I love the staying in the same location you're playing, the convenience,
Yeah,
and
it's pretty good.
like not having to travel in the morning was just really nice, and just being there in like the social hub. Um, that's
Yeah,
really
it feels very socially connected. I agree with that.
yeah.
Good stuff.
Right. Caesar 221 says, question for you guys. What would you say is the best points level to determine skill in a tournament setting? I'm thinking 700 to 800 to give you tools and also allow for more games in a single tournament so the best players have the better chances of rising to the top.
I
Gosh,
think
that is a question.
I think if you really wanted to test skill, that's almost impossible to do. You'd have to create a format of like a full like so you'd have to do it you'd have to make it a series, I'd say, of 7 games spread out. You play 7 games over the course of all the different points levels, and every single game you do a draft system of matchup and scenario,
Yeah.
because there's so much randomness. If you want to actually do a test of skill, you could. I mean, that's only between 2 players as well. Like, I don't believe there is any points level where skill level is more on display. I do think from 600 and up is better. I think below 600 things can get a little bit random at times. You're
Especially
they all show skill level, right? But below 600, you're more likely to get shafted, sent sideways by something unfortunate like an
one
heirloom
bad turn of
team,
shooting. Yeah.
or one bad turn of shooting kills too many models, or you randomly have to play against something random like a mimic or something that ends your tournament, stuff like that. Um, and you don't have the mitigating stuff to do it. Certain things in this game are more skill expressive than others. Like, the more options you have, the more opportunity you have for skill expression. But that doesn't mean that lists without those things don't have skill expression either. It's like saying if you ran, Casa Doom dwarves with a ton of Vault Wardens exceptionally well, like Ali sometimes does, Ali King. That's a particular kind of skill expression versus the kind of finesse that you need to run a 3 Wraith and Spider Queen list, for example, because like that is low tools skill versus high tools skill, and it's different skills, but it doesn't mean that
Yeah.
the player is better than the other. It just means one player has a lot more tools than the other.
I know in
Um,
lots of discussions where it's been kind of who are the best players in the UK of all time or whatever, it's been X player is particularly good at this, X player is particularly good at this. So
it's a
like
feeling
board
thing, you know.
board
It's
control or intuition or knowing when to spend resources or
yeah,
late game, early game.
it's getting it's hard to explain. I don't think there's any surefire points level that would tell you though. I think the
No,
only way you could ever have that would be like a overall player skill. You'd have to play like loads of different matchups. You'd have to
yeah.
play every matchup both sides, for example. You'd have to, it would be a whole thing. Which is interesting. It's not it's not a worthless idea. Like I'd be fascinated to try and come up with a weekend's worth of gaming between two players to figure out how you could decide who's the more skillful player.
Mm,
Because this game is ultimately a dice game. So even in the perfect setup, you'd need judges. You'd need judges to watch the game and evaluate the moves like a boxing match. I think that'd be pretty fascinating, actually.
mm. Moving on to the Christ the Second. I missed you. Oh, as much as I'm missing the trolls, I definitely haven't skipped to the end of the video to see if you answered me. We will always answer every YouTube comment as long as it's not saying anything incredibly negative or derogatory towards someone that isn't us. I will watch the whole thing later. Thanks for the answers. Hadn't thought to use Saruman with the Witch King. Sounds fun. It definitely is fun. It's not necessarily the best combo, but having two incredibly powerful casters
They
in
can
the
work
same
for about
list,
800 points and up, I
yeah,
would say.
it's very good. And also, both lists have good tools, Mordor more so, but Isengard's got the blisters and the bombs and whatnots, um, as well as Crebain to go around. Next round of questions now. Time to spice them up a bit. Why is the new edition box lackluster? I haven't seen it, mate. So
He's speaking from the future. I'm assuming this is the one with it's got Rohan houses, good
oh
side,
right,
bad side,
yeah,
Matt,
potentially.
hero. It's like good side hero, bad side hero,
It's a three by
Rohan on
three
foot,
map. That's why
Dunlan's
it's
Matt.
lackluster.
I mean, I'll be interested to see if they plan on changing the game to be 3 by 3. I mean, it's kind of lame, but whatever. I don't think it would change it all that much.
Yeah. Why is Frecker both a good unit with boring abilities? I feel like there's a second part of that question.
Well, I mean, so
It,
Frecker's rules are they released it saying there was like a banner bubble with 5 early buff, sort of like a
yeah,
Boromir
he's
thing.
the master of Dunland.
Dunland Town.
Yeah,
I like his model actually. I think he looks really cool.
yeah.
I think I'd like to use it maybe.
Someone put it best that he's showing might and strength without actually using his weapon, which is quite an interesting like power pose moment, which is quite nice.
Certainly a nice model for that. I think that's one of the things I like about it.
Yeah.
As we all know, I like models that are just standing there.
Yes.
The less action involved, the better, from as I'm
Yes.
concerned.
Yeah. Do Games Workshop know their abilities other than pseudo banners?
Yes, they do,
They
as we see
do.
by the new shade. I mean, the
Yeah.
new shade is an impressively creative profile, I think,
I
and
think that
I
might
think
be one of
actually, yeah,
I
it's
think it
one of
might
the
be the
most
most
creative
interesting and best
ideas.
profiles that's been released.
I don't know about best, but like in terms of its strength is still to be evaluated, but it's certainly I've seen it in a new light more recently. The more I've actually seen its capabilities,
Mm,
which is pretty cool. It's certainly a much more interesting unit than it was before. Whereas it
yeah.
was unbelievably powerful before, but extremely boring, and now its power is much more conditional. It's significantly more interesting. I think that's cool. I love that actually.
Yeah. Should mounts and riders be abolished? Keep for heroes, but bin for infantry, as it's a pain in the ass.
No,
No, I don't think so.
I think it
Uh,
works fine. I think
yeah,
it takes a little getting used to when you first play this game. If you've mostly played stuff like fantasy, where mounts and riders are just, they're just, a mounted hero is just, it's an upgrade that never goes away. But once you get that your head around it, it's like it's fine, and I think it's a nice bit of granularity that a skirmish game can offer that normal like other games can't really get into that level of detail.
yeah.
But I think it's cool.
What do you think of Rings of Power? Personally, I enjoyed it on the whole. I like to take it as a fan created version of Lord of the Rings and take it as kind of a separate piece of media. I don't worry too much about the bits which don't line up with the books or the films because I've never expected it
Sounds
to do
healthy.
so. And therefore I think it's enjoyable. Obviously there's
I
silly bits. It's not as
have a fairly
perfect as
low
it could
opinion of
be.
it, but
Yeah.
also I haven't watched that much of it. The bits I watched, I found quite annoying in a way that I was like, yeah, I don't think this is worth my time. In the sense that I think a lot of the creative decisions and um, uh, writing in particular feels pretty bad in a way that I
Mm,
find annoying, and so I don't particularly feel like I want to watch it. But I will probably watch it all at some point, just because I don't want to miss out on the thing,
yeah.
the thing that we talk
I'm
about that's involved in our game.
I'm not mad about it to the point where haven't watched it religiously like I would with any other show. At this point, I've watched one episode of season two, and that's not because I'm not
Yeah.
enjoying it. It's because I'll get to it when I get to it. Um,
Uh-huh.
if maybe if it picks up in season three, I'll watch it more fanatically. But there's so much media and good content out there of just literally every single format that
Yeah.
it's not sparking me. I'm not
Yeah,
hating it.
if it's not catching your joy, it's like,
Yeah.
don't worry about it then, I guess.
I know Gilgalad does do some fighting in it though, so
Well,
that's yeah. Uh,
that's fine.
Number six, and I think this is possibly the most important question. What are your tips for someone attending a GBHL event for the first time?
Well, we sort of touched on this earlier, didn't we, a little bit?
I think most important tip is know that you are not, or you are probably not going to go in it and win it. You, and this might sound a bit weird, but if you are the big fish in your local gaming circle pond and you go into a 6 game event and you expect to win all 6 games, you're either SB Jesus, or you temper your expectations. Basically, what you want to do when you go to a GBHL event is learn something, meet some new people, and have a blast.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the best that you can do. Um, is go into it expecting to have a nice time and meet some new people and learn some things. You're not going to win every game, or you shouldn't win every game. If you do win every game, then I look forward to your new and eternal dominance of the UK meta because that's very exciting. Um, but yeah, just if you can go with a friend, try and meet a bunch of new people, try and meet some people who've come from near where your area is, so you can travel together or make a group together. Um, and yeah, just go in with an open mind and be friendly. Simple as that, to be honest.
Yeah, if you're not friendly, we'll hear about it.
Yeah, I
Watch
mean,
yourself.
yeah, it's not like nerds are socially awkward at all. So
Yeah.
uh, just go up and chat to people. You see it
Yeah.
all the time. Like there was someone who looked
Chance to
like
play
me.
against one of us as well. Make sure you say that you watch the show.
Yeah, if you say you watch the channel, then
Sometimes I see names that I like. I see names on the list that I'm like, that sounds vaguely familiar from possibly from a YouTube comment. But then I'm like, is it? I don't want to be like, oh, have you seen my show? Because that feels weirdly pretentious, you know.
yeah.
But
Speaking of which, shout out Adam Bird, played in Game 6 at Unnumbered Tears. Lovely gentleman. Um, Moving on to Mr. Ryan Beatty, Ryan hyphen II4VD. I mean, presumably that's the number of times he's had venereal disease. Doesn't review the winning list of the Factorum 90. This is an anti-Pigmar conspiracy. I even did it with the
yeah,
old
it is.
Lothlorien spam for the Denby Overlord, shaking my head. Yeah, to be honest, Pigmar live rent-free in my head and I can't cope with it. In all seriousness, glad you're well again. Being ill sucks. It does indeed. Um,
Yeah, I'll let you know when I'm well again.
yeah, the same. Um, a real question for the pod. I'm going to a Good versus Evil 775 event soon and toying with the either 40 model Loth, Galadriel, Rumil, Howler, and 2 Sentinels, or 39 models and 2 banners and just 1 Sentinel with the same hero lineup. Any thoughts? Take 12 Sentinels because I'm also going to that event and I'd quite like to win it. Genuinely, I don't think you need either 2 Sentinels or 2 banners at 775.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got Galathrim Knights, I'd try and get some of them. If you
Yeah,
have
I
these
have a
two,
minimum of
I
2
think
knights.
I'd get a
Um,
second knight before I got a second sentinel or banner.
yeah,
If you do have 2 knights,
then
then
Galathan
I'd
Bolt
say a
Guard.
second sentinel personally, because or more Galathrim Court, because I mean Galathrim Court are only 1 point more than a Spear Shield
Yeah,
guy. They're only D5, but they do have Courage 6 and Fight 6, which is beast.
yeah.
Um,
I think if
yeah,
you do have to pick between the two, then I personally would choose the Sentinel, knowing it's good versus evil.
evil, yeah, because
Yeah,
auto passing terror, even though your high courage is still really valuable, I would
and
say.
also just fucking around with opponents' low courage models because evil is
Yeah,
obviously on
absolutely,
average lower.
exactly.
And I think that is the last of our comments. So thank you everyone for coming along to comment, listen, listen, like, share, subscribe, support your Hobbit hobby. Remember to go check out Seven City Collectibles in the link in the description below. Wish Dave a better throat because his is clearly quite still very sore from coughing.
I've reminded myself I need to go take some antibiotics. So, like I
Yes,
said,
you do.
not that healthy just yet.
And remember to be good people. And we'll catch you on the next one. Chitter chitter.
Chitter, chitter.
Yeah,
Don't
baby.
forget to cut the part where you had to go.
Yeah,
And then so
the ambience is a little bit different tonight because I'm recording directly from my bathroom.
start the damn joust before I shit myself.